up, guys? Welcome to another video. Today we're reviewing Smile. This one came out on September 30th and was directed by Parker Finn and stars Sosie Bacon and Kyle Gallner. Now, before we start, like button, subscribe, the post notification bell so you know for a video, and let's just start. So, I saw Smile on the date released September 30th, but I didn't have a chance to review it until now. So, here's my review. So, with all that said, let's get started. So, let's just start talking about the good. So, all the actors and actors in this film, I thought they're all good, especially Sosie Bacon, who plays Dr. Rose Cotter, Kyle Gallner, who plays Joel, and Rob Morgan, who plays Robert Talley. They're all great in the film. The cinematography, which includes the shots, the cameras, the lighting, is great. I really enjoyed how this film was very small scale. And you can see it by the camera work. Parker Finn, I thought, did a great job behind the camera in terms of the cinematography. The first act of the film, I thought it was good. It sets the characters well. You cared about most of the characters, and it was easy to follow their relationships between each other. The psychiatrist sequences. Now, there's a psychiatrist in the film, and there are sequences, of course, with the psychiatrist that are shown in the trailer. And she is played by Robin Weigart, and she's terrifying. When things happen in those sequences, they're very, very scary. Of course, you know, all the people that are sort of possessed are smiling, and it's very, very creepy. The second of the film, I thought it was good. It progressed the story well. I cared about what was happening in the second act, especially with the whole mystery, how it unravels throughout the second act, where they're going to find different things. They're going to different locations, talking to different people, including Rob Morgan's character. And I thought it was a good second act. There are also many brutal sequences. Characters die in very graphic ways. One of the deaths, which this is a spoiler, but she is in the hospital, and she's talking to Sosie Bacon, her character. Her name is Laura Weaver, and she ends up getting a sort of piece of glass and cuts her face open. It is one of the most gruesome sequences in the entire film, which this film does go to disgusting and gruesome places in terms of the death scenes of these people, and it's very, very scary. It's very terrifying, and this movie was made on a very low budget. It was not made on a bunch of money. It did not have a lot of money to make the movie, but Parker Finn found a way to make it both disturbing and gruesome with using the budget that he had. And there are also many tense sequences that did keep me on the edge of my seat. I was on the edge of my seat throughout basically the entire film. There are a lot of tension in this film. There's a lot of tense sequences, and it's handled very well. There are also many jump scares. Now, I am not a big fan of jump scares if there's nothing else with it. If there's no suspense, no tension, then the jump scares for me are very lackluster in a lot of horror films. But this film does the jump scares very well. It adds that sort of tension and tension building throughout the entire scene. And when it does get to the jump scares, actually disturbing. Some of them are shown in the trailer, but there are many surprises in this film in terms of the jump scares. I was not expecting over half the jump scares in this film because there are a lot of jump scares. Some are executed not so well, but many of them are executed very well. And there are also many terrifying sequences. This film is terrifying, and it goes to dark places, like I said, with people getting a piece of glass, cutting their face, or characters setting themselves on fire. It's very, very gruesome, and I thought it works for this film. It's also a great story. It's very engaging. This is a better than expected story for this film. Every person who kills themselves, whoever sees their death ends up in the cycle. And of course, Sosie Bacon saw the death of Laura in the hospital when she cut her face, and that's how she ended up joining the cycle. And I thought that part of the story is very unique and very, very interesting. The third act of the film I thought was fantastic. It takes place in Dr. Rose Cotter's childhood home. Rose confronts the evil, and the evil is a giant monster, and it uses CGI. It does use CGI, but I think that it kind of worked because it did make it more creepy, because the tall, creepy guy, or monster, is terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And Rose does set herself on fire, and Joel watches the entire thing. Joel is, of course, played by Kyle Gallner, who's fantastic in the film. He watches the whole thing with Rose setting herself on fire, and it is very, very disturbing. The score by Cristobal Tapia de Veer is great. I really enjoyed the score for this film. It adds a lot of tension to the sequences that should be tense, and it's very, very unnerving and unsettling. And the ending sequence, I thought it was a great twist ending. The monster's curse ends up passing on to Joel, and I thought it worked because it sort of left you on sort of a cliffhanger, but not really because it made sense with the story. That's all the good that I have. Now to go on to the bad. So some characters are not as well developed as others, um, and there are a lot of characters in this film that aren't that well developed, where I did not really care about the character at all, especially the sister of the main character. I did not care about her at all. Um, and that sequence is a jump scare, which it worked. It still worked, but I was expecting it in the film since it was in the trailer. But her character is very lackluster, and I don't really care about her. That's about it. Smile is a surprisingly good horror film. It's definitely one of the scariest films that I've seen this year so far, and I highly recommend it. And I'm gonna give Smile a B plus. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the post notification bell so you never miss a video. I'm Peter. Thank you for watching.